Oakland A's UK. Oakland A's UK. The Oakland A's UK. The Oakland A's UK.
Hello and welcome to Oakland A's UK. I'm Matt Smith, here for your weekly review. Now, last week's weekly review was on a Monday rather than a Sunday. This week's is on a Saturday rather than a Sunday. What can I say? Reasons. From a baseball point of view, we are not playing very well at the moment, so I'm trying to get in early to tempt a bit of fate, try to get some luck on our side. And of course, we've also got the trade deadline coming up at the end of July, so on Wednesday next week. So you want to get stuck into looking at the roster and what the A's may do there. But first off, we've got to have a look at the results from this week so far. And yeah, that's not been so good, has it? So we knew the 3-game series in Houston would be difficult, particularly facing their 3 best pitchers, Gerrit Cole, Wade Miley and Justin Verlander. So in that sense, you would kind of take 1 win out of the 3. But where we are in the season, trying to chase down the Astros in the standings and also wanting the wins for our wildcard race, it's not ideal. We got 1 win at least and can put that to one side. And then when we came back home for the series against the Rangers, that was the series we targeted in terms of coming out of the Twins Road Series, the Astros Road Series, get back to Oakland and face the Rangers and pick up some wins. But that's not how it's been in the first 2 games, is it? We've lost both of them, and both in frustrating style, looking good early on, but just not being able to hold on to it or take advantage of our opportunities early on. So we've lost both of those games so far. We've now got 2 more. One today on Saturday, which is a night game. And then the game on Sunday is a day game. I think it's 9:07 UK start time. We need 2 wins, no doubt about it. We need to split this series. Again, it's not life or death. It doesn't determine our season by any stretch. But we can't afford to be giving away wins, especially to division rivals like the Rangers. So we need to get straight back on it tonight, and hopefully we can. Homer Bailey is on the mound. Dreadful start against the Astros. Had a good opening start against the Mariners, but the Astros, well, yeah, you're coming back down to earth with a bump, aren't you? Hopefully he can rebound from that and give us a good start on Saturday night to set us up for the Sunday day game and to get some of those wins back, because we need them. The trade deadline this year is 31st of July, no extension to that at all, so it's next Wednesday. The A's clearly would like to add another pitcher or 2 if they can. Let's take a look at the current roster and see where the flexibility might be and who we might be after. And to do that, of course, we need the good old A's roster magnetic whiteboard. So the whiteboard covers our 40-man roster, with the active 25-man roster side of it on the left. Now, MLB Basics, on any given day you have an active 25-man roster, so they're the 25 guys who can play in a game on that day. Those 25 are taken from a larger 40-man roster. The 15 spare guys are either short-term injured on the 10-day injured list, such as Stephen Piscotty at the moment, or are people in your minor league system. And the key thing there is that, generally speaking, there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, you can move a guy between the active roster and the other people on a 40-man roster fairly easily. If a player isn't on a 40-man roster currently, then you have to take someone off the roster to put them on. And obviously that's the key thing to think about now when we're looking at trades and potentially acquiring a new player or 2. So let's start at the top of the board. The hitters. Now that Nick Hundley has been designated for assignment, as expected, that leaves us with Fegley and Herman as our catching duo, Bo Taylor as the 3rd man in the minor leagues. So I don't really expect to see too much change here with the hitters. Obviously, Stephen Piscotty is on the 10-day injured list. He's due to start a rehab assignment in Las Vegas on Sunday, so hopefully he'll be back with the team fairly soon. And when he does come off the injured list, you would expect Franklin Barreto to be the man to make way and go back to AAA. That's unless the current issues with Chris Davis actually do mean there's an injury and they may kind of swap over Davis and Piscotty. But That's not what the team are saying at the moment. They're saying Chris Davis is fine, so likely to see Piscotti back on the active roster and Franklin Barreto move to the other side. The only real changes here probably would be if somebody gets traded as part of a package to get a pitcher. But let's have a look at the pitchers. So this is the pitching staff, and there are a few things to point out here as we look at it. Down in the bottom right, we have a group of players who are not currently on the 40-man roster but would need to be added back. One of them, sadly, is Frankie Montas, who's suspended, so he doesn't count towards the 40-man roster, and we can forget about him for the rest of the season. But the other 4 guys are people on the 60-day injured list, and the main one is the guy at the top, Sean Manaea. So he's been pitching. Last outing, although he gave up some runs, he did seem to... The team were happy with how he pitched and he was healthy, so it looks like Sean shouldn't be too far away. So he is going to need to be added to the 40-man roster, or added back to it more precisely, so that he can come onto the team. And we do have, as far as I can see, 1 spare spot at the moment. So we're on 39, we've got a spare spot to take. So if we're saying that's where Sean Manaea will go, and presumably he would take the place of Daniel Mengden in a rotation at the moment, we've then got to look at, well, who might we bring in, where might be the gaps, and who would have to make way to make that happen. So the key bit for me is the bullpen. We clearly would want to try to add another good arm to the bullpen, particularly with Blake Trinan's continued struggles. Where do we go from here? So we've got a complete list currently, but within the group, Wei-Chung Wong, who did give up some runs recently, but has generally pitched pretty well out of the bullpen. Looks like he does still have an option, so we can put him in the minor league. So he may be the guy that makes way. Or it could be Brian Schlitter, although as far as I can tell, he doesn't have any options left, so that may be something to factor in. But to bring someone new in, you suspect one of those 2 guys would either be moved out, so back to the minors, or moved off the roster completely. If we want to bring in a starting pitcher, then it does start to get a bit complicated with Sean Manaea coming back. Yes, Daniel Mengden can go back to AAA, but Fires, Anderson, Bassett, newcomer Bailey have done okay. Maybe if Bailey really stinks it up tonight, that may be a factor, but you wouldn't have thought so quickly. So I'm not sure where a pitcher would fit in. Now, the obvious thing to say about that is it depends how good the pitcher is. If we can get someone like Noah Syndergaard or Marcus Stroman, then no one else is going to block that. But I don't see the A's being willing in the current situation to part with the package to get one of those guys. So you're really looking at kind of back of the rotation pitchers, and I guess the question for me then is going to be, how much better are they going to be than a returning Sean Manaea, than a Chris Bassett, than a Homer Bailey? And you've got to factor that in again, because it's going to mean having to get rid of someone from the 40-man roster to bring them in. Now, I know there are people like Paul Blackburn and Andrew Triggs, maybe even Tanner Anderson, who you wouldn't be overly concerned about losing. But you do then also have to factor in that Joel Cotton has to come back from the 60-day injured list at some point. Hopefully this season, maybe not, but he will do. You've then got Marco Estrada, and I know we want to try to forget about him, but he has started a rehab assignment. I suspect more likely he'd be cut, but we don't know. Again, he would be someone who would have to be added back to the 40-man roster if needed. Daniel Gossett, potentially sometime next season, and of course you've then got the likes of Jesus Luzardo and AJ Puck next season too. So the more I think about it, the more I think that unless the A's can really get someone good as a starting pitcher, I'm not convinced they're going to add a starting pitcher, and instead will just add a relief pitcher, because otherwise you're starting to kind of create a bit of a logjam in terms of your 40-man roster. And again, if you can get a top level starter, that's fine, you don't mind. But if you're only going to get a back of the rotation guy, you're losing a pitcher, potentially a pitcher who you've got under control for a longer period of time, for a short-term guy who perhaps isn't going to be much better than what you've got. So we will have to wait and see, but my prediction is one relief pitcher, and that's about it. The one thing you can guarantee is that David Frost, Billy Bean and the rest of the A's front office will be doing all they can to try and bring in another pitcher or two over the next few days. What do you think? What do you think the A's should do? And what do you think the A's will do? Not necessarily the same thing, are they? We'll wait and see if we can get something done by the trade deadline next Wednesday, the 31st of July. If we can, no doubt we'll be tweeting about it on Oakland A UK. Follow along there, and also Oakland A UK on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, as always, like, share and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm Matt Smith. Thanks a lot for watching.
The Oakland